Hello, I'm Malcolm West and I'm going to be giving you a guide here through our new Personal Edition version 3.1. So just to put this in context, most people come to Personal Edition after Community Edition, our completely free product. Does all the same sort of core document management capability as Personal Edition we're going to look at. You can use it for free, but you can't tailor or customize any of the methods, and it doesn't do any reporting. Personal Edition, what we're just going to have a look at, you can buy new for £99. If you want to upgrade from a previous version to the current one we're just going to look at, that'll be £25. And then we have our larger multi-user platform, Small Team Edition, Enterprise Edition, for multiple users to work interactively with the same set of projects, price varying depending on obviously the number of users that you're interested in. And all these work interactively with our Planner tool, free tool to help you manage plans, risk and issue management across your projects. Okay, so the new capabilities of Personal Edition version 3.1 centered around a new set of method templates. These are now brought into line with the ones we provide in Community Edition, the ones we provide in our multiple multi-user platforms. They are restyled and improved in terms of navigation, extended in a number of different areas to collect additional information as well. They're also aligned to use Planner as the standard way of collecting project controls, risk, issue, planning information. You can also use Microsoft Project if you want to. And they also are preset so that the templates in them can have project properties automatically completed when you're checking the file out. Uses a single pane navigation mode, again for ease of working your way through the more complex methods. And as I mentioned earlier, it can automatically insert your core project properties, so for example project name, project manager, job number. In fact, anything you choose to add to your method template can be automatically inserted into your Word documents as standard elements of text. So it saves you having to retype things over and over again. When something changes all the way across the project, you change it once and it's automatically inserted into the documents the next time they're checked out. You can also bring new items into the report, so we have the ability to load standard images, something that people have been finding very interesting when we've been beta testing, and we've had lots of questions asked about it in the past. Automatically including any sorts of diagrams or images you use to display information, to communicate, share ideas and concepts about your project. So it could be site photographs, layout drawings, schemas, a whole range of different sorts of things that people use to communicate about their project concepts. Filters can be applied to your reporting now, so you can look at only including certain tasks or certain risks or issues, etc., through into your project and portfolio level reporting. And you can also choose to define your own custom report types or styles, so you can have completely different branding sets on different types of report, and you can also build in different elements of the report data, so you can switch some bits off, add extra bits in that you want to, and that's under your control, so you can set up your own report templates like that to apply to your projects. Okay, so let's go and have a look at that within the tool itself. So nothing much has changed around the sort of standard elements of Personal Edition, the bits that people have been very happy with. So choosing a project, I can go to my portfolio list if I want to, or just straight into pick a single project. And as I mentioned, the navigation and the method templates have all been refreshed and updated to align them with the ones we use in our other projects. So we've gone to this tabbed approach here. So here I have my sort of process navigation, where I can click on Controlled Start to get the documents associated with the controlled start at the project or the stage level, and I can obviously work my way through those as I need to in my process. But if I want to go to something like the library, for example, we'll see the navigation allows me to jump around as though it were a tabbed website. So I can move to my various different elements I'm interested in, additional resources or library. I can come to my new favourites process if I want to. I can jump to pre-saved website, and so just all of the method templates now use this tabbed arrangement to get a better consistency of navigation. Also built into the method template now is the ability to automatically set up all my reporting and my document properties. So if I come and look at my project summary information, the form that manages my report setup and my project setup, you'll see this project's a sort of more completed example. It's got some content in here, but automatically when I set the project up, it would have known which file it was going to use for plan source, so it's picked that up here. It's a planner file, and it would have known what it was going to use for its risk and issue sources, planner again, and finances, in this case a spreadsheet, and it would have set all that up along with the extended properties I was going to use on my project. So which things do I want to collect, and in this case we've got business area, customer, project manager name, etc., as well as my core description, job number, sort of set of general properties. And also set up as part of that method is knowing which ones it wants to automatically insert into the Word documents and Excel files when I check them out on my project. So it's going to automatically put in the customer details, project description, project name, job number, project manager, project sponsor. So they'll be automatically completed into the documents. And we can see that all that's been set up here. And here I also have a place where I can put my report images, but we'll come back to that in a moment. So that's all been a mixture of setup when I created the project automatically by the system, and also then I've typed in my project manager name, my descriptions and commentaries, etc. But what that means is when I come to then check out a project document, it will automatically populate that content for me. So here, for example, if we look at our project initiation document, we can see it's an original template, and if we open that to look at the original template, we can see it's got these blank document property entries here against the project name, the job number, the items we've talked about already. So automatically in the background of the method template, these standard entries. Now when we then check the file out, it will go back to the central system and add that content for the version. So check that out, it's checking the document properties out, inserting them into my document, and I can now see automatically completed into this version of my PID is that information. Now when I check that file back in, that'll then be obviously locked into the system, and then that'll be the same for all my project files that I check out while the project properties remain as they are. Of course, if we change the project manager or the sponsor of the project changes, some other key piece of information, once we then begin to check documents out again, we've only changed it in one place, that central store, but it'll then be fed out into all the documents around the project. Now this means that you can change these yourself if you want to. You can put extra things into your method template as extended properties. You can build them into your template files. And the sort of things we've seen customers doing, security settings, commercial and confidence, restricted security settings, etc. Defined for the project, set up once, automatically appearing in the header of all the Word files on the project. That sort of thing, very, very helpful. Other people putting in contact details, PMO, PSO, project manager contact details, reporting cycle frequencies, that sort of thing. You agree them once, put them in the project properties, they then appear automatically in all the documents. So hopefully you can see how that's a relatively simple and quick way to improve again the consistency and standard of quality of documentation, getting the information shared around in a controlled, sensible way. And in fact we can have a little look at that. So if we go and decide to create a new project for ourselves, so let's come to File here and New Project, and I'm going to pick one of the new style templates, my AP2 2011. So this is the small light version of Prince 2 that we use. So I'm going to do my AP2 example. So I now have that project here. If I come back and open it, now all that information will have been set up for me. If I come here to project, summary information, now obviously we don't have a description, a commentary, a status populated. We haven't populated our information about the various people here, but if I just do one typical example, I'll put myself in as the project manager. But you will have seen automatically that it knows where it's getting its data from for the various sources, the plans, the logs, etc. It knows which things it needs to populate into the documents as extended properties on export. So that means I can come very quickly straight into here. I can check out my project mandate, and it will automatically insert any of that content that it has populated fields for. Okay, and there we can see we've got our file populated with the only field that we had in it, project name and the project manager's name. The rest have been populated, but they've been populated with blanks. As we go and fill in that data later on, it will then appear in those later versions of the document. Also, as I say, we've populated the setup for reporting. So although the project's only just been created, I can immediately run a project report on it. So here's my project report form. I can choose a range of things. Obviously it remembers the last things I've used. I'm just going to switch it back to default for the moment and run that report, and we'll see that it's able to pull through and produce a project report automatically. It knows what to include, it knows where it's getting its risk data from, it's got a sample risk in there, it knows where it's getting its issue data from, it knows where it's getting its plan data from, it's got some sample data in there, and it's been able to compile that report for me immediately. Now that means, of course, that as I create my projects, just drop them into a portfolio, then immediately that data's been assembled and manipulated in the right sort of way, and I can then go away and fill these things out. I don't have to work out where the various bits have been collected from. It makes it much easier and quicker for me to set up and run reporting, and especially with minimal training. And to be honest, most of our personal edition customers essentially train themselves from the video tools that we're providing here and from the sort of standard help documentation. So the easier and quicker it is to set these things up, the significant amount of time that saves you. So let's have a little explore around the reporting a little bit further. I'm going to switch back to the more populated project example. I think it probably gives a better feel. So that was this example here. Now here we're using Planner to collect our schedule information and our risks and issues. So we can see we've got our standard project plan here. I can view my schedule and we can see it's in Planner. It's got various bits of information here. It's got my schedule, current date, percentage complete on various tasks, etc. But I also use a variation of Planner to collect my risk and issue information as well. So if I look at my risk register, now in this particular method we have separate risk, issue and project schedules because the structuring of the method means it's probably better to have them as separate documents, a bit more focus on the particular activity in question. In our very light method, the AP2 one we were looking at a second ago, they use a single combined file to collect all three things. And of course you can vary that as you need to on your own particular preferences of method. So if we look at the risk register here, we'll see it uses the standard Planner approach. We can collect information on our various risks, on their impact, probability, proximity. We can store responses, we can manage all this against categories and statuses, and if we want to we can customize all that. But basically we're collecting together the data here, we're managing it through normal version control, and we can see that's the case here, and we're building up that collection of information that we want to then share into reporting as we go along. Now one of the things about the way we used to collect that information in Excel was we could do filters that people particularly liked. So for example, show me any risks over a certain sort of level into the final report. But because that was done from Excel, you had to decide in the Excel what you wanted to collect and export up to reporting. But what we do now is we export the entire set of data and we do some cleverer filtering at the report level. So you get all the data, then you choose very quickly how to flip it around and reproduce the report with the data in that you're interested in. So let's go and have a look at that for a project report. So the project report form's extended somewhat over the previous version, which you'd be able to see if you looked at the older video tours. Again, we can include the stage information if we want to, but then we have the other tabs here split out into a little bit more detail. So when I come and look at my plan, I can choose to display my plan data, the data from my Gantt charts, my Planner or Microsoft Project or Excel forms, at two different levels. There's the Gantt chart that we're going to draw, and there's the task list we're going to provide with it. Now I can choose to show those at different levels. So currently these are set to show all tasks for both. But I might be interested in having all tasks showing for the task list, but a slightly simpler sort of format showing for my Gantt chart. So here I'm just going to show the main summary bars. So these are levels of indent. So 0 is the top level project, 1 is the sort of major levels of grouping of tasks below that. So we can have something slightly different between the chart and the task list. And we can also choose, if we want to force a colour onto those. So we're often interested in styling the charts and the reports to match our own corporate styling. So I'm going to go blue to red as a sort of colour range. I'm then going to have a look at my risks. So I'm going to bring risk data in. Now currently I'm not going to do any sort of filtering. I could filter my risks at certain sort of levels. So only show risks with an inherent rating greater than a certain amount, or residual rating greater than a certain amount. And I could then apply that filter if I wanted to the various elements of the risk reporting that we're going to do. But currently I'll leave that unfiltered. Exactly the same sort of approach to issues. Again, we can apply filters to them and show them, but again we'll leave them unfiltered currently. And other data we can include. So we can include finances, we can include the user specified spreadsheet tables as we used to do previously for your own custom spreadsheet sources of data. And we can also now choose to include report images. So we can add images just as any old sort of file to our project. We can then give that a description, obviously when we check the file in, and it will then pull that image out and use the description as a comment on that into the report. And finally, my presentation options here. Here I can choose the sort of size of charts I want to put into my reports. I can choose the template I want to use to compile my report, the branding, structure, style of it, etc. So I'm going to leave that on default at the moment, which is basically the same arrangement as we've had in previous versions. And I'm going to run that report now. So it's getting those various data bits back, it's applying the filters that we've asked it to, and producing me the output report. In this case into Word, which is my preferred format, but it could be HTML as well. So it's brought all those various bits of data back. Here we can see the images section. So I've got a couple of images I want to include, and it's brought the image and packaged it into the report, and used the description as the comment for it here. Same for the next one below. Then as I come into my risk reporting section, it's put the various elements of risk output in, my risk expected values, my sort of risk budget figures if you like. I've got my charts showing my breakdown of risks by category, so commercial, technology, legislation, etc. I've then got that as a table as well. And both of those are currently unfiltered. I've then got risk matrices showing my risk profile by the inherent probability, so that's the risk when we first identify them, and then the residual probability. So what we can see is we first identified some risks, we had some fairly significant ones up here, and as we've then started to manage our risks and we end up with a residual probability, we see they start to come down, so our risks are falling right to left, which is what we'd expect to see. And then I've got my table of risks. So here, if you remember, I'm showing all my risks here. I can see them ordered by whatever I choose to in the report picker earlier, and coloured likewise. And then I've got my issues again in the same sort of arrangement as previously. Finances, as we've done before, and then my plans here. And you can see with the plans, as we discussed, we've got we decided just to show the top level grouping, so things at indent level 1. So we can see the launch, we can see prototype development, and we can see production. And in the table I asked to show all the data, so we're getting to see all the data down to who's resourced on it, what its start date is, percentage complete is, etc. So that's my more complete report format. Now I can easily now come back. This is the advantage of using the filters here in the report form, is I can come back and make some changes very quickly without having to go back to the spreadsheet and change them. So I can come back here and say, well, actually I don't want to see all those risks. What I'm really interested in seeing is any risks that are greater than a residual value of 3. I'm not interested in closed risks anymore, and I want to apply those filters to the list and the matrix, and in fact we'll apply it well everywhere apart from the summary chart. And I want to order these by risk rating. I can do the same sort of thing to my issue chart as well, so I want to see anything with severity of greater than 3. I'm not interested in closed ones, and I'm just going to apply that to the list in this case. So if I rerun that, we'll see that that's what we get here. So now I've got a more significant set of summary charts. So this is unfiltered, but we've got the rest of these items filtered, and we can see here when we've got a filter running, it tells us what the filter is. So minimum residual risk rating of 3, excluding closed risks. So we can see it's just showing us those that are open or action pending and in which categories they are, and it's applied those filters in all the other occasions where we've asked for it. So we can really start to focus on the things we're particularly interested in. And we've obviously got those ordered, in this case we said by residual risk rating. Same sort of thing we've done for issues as well, and finance, and our plan is exactly the same as we asked for it previously. Now of course we can, this is very powerful in terms of allowing us to rejig the content out of the reports, get it exactly as we want to before we publish and share it with people. We can do that very quickly and easily. If I want to, of course, because this is into Word, I can then take things out. So I'm not interested in having my risk matrix showing. I can take that out, I'll take this one out as well, and I can obviously edit my report down. And I can do quite a lot of that by hand because I've put it all into Word. But if you're going to try and do the same changes every time, that's a bit of a pain. And certainly if you want to try and massively restructure the layout, currently, one thing comes after the next thing down the page. We end up with a long multi-page format of report, and that's all well and good, and often that's what we want. But sometimes we want a different sort of arrangement, and as I say, rather than editing it all by hand, we might want to preset or save that a different arrangement, so we can apply that quickly instead. So we can have a look at how that can now be done. So I'm going to save, close that report. And what we do is we have here the choice of report template. So we use essentially HTML technology to assemble our report. It uses an XSL and CSS combination to build the structure of the data and the style of the presentation together, and that's what we then publish into the browser or into Word as a finished production. So the default is the normal arrangement, but I also have created what I'm calling a custom dashboard format, which is a separate package of instructions on how to build a report. It's one I've produced myself and stored in the template folder here. So if I run exactly the same criteria to the custom dashboard, we'll see what we get instead. So this is somewhat different. This is trying to produce a sort of poster style of report using a sort of grid or a matrix approach. So let's just zoom this in a little bit and see what we've got. We've got 2 rows of sort of 3 blocks of information, summary information. We've got then our images, we've got our finances and issues, and we've got our schedule and risks in the next row. So this is intended to broadly fit on 2 sheets of A4, or if you wanted to, 1 sheet of A3 in portrait, something like that, you could then print it out and put it on the wall. Of course you could PDF it as well, and you'll notice here that we've not only have we changed the structure of it in terms of how we're laying out the blocks on the page, but we're using different sort of graphics in here. So we've got some graphical themes rather than the traditional text headers. And we've also chosen to not display certain elements. So we're not displaying any stage information here at all. We're not displaying our risk matrix view or the risk probability budgets. We're just going straight for summary chart and risk list. But it is still taking those filters that we've applied. So it's giving me my simple schedule, my full task list. Now because this is of course published into Word, I can very easily change the layout of this into something like landscape, and I can then start to drag things around to get it exactly how I want to lay it out on the page. I could obviously print preview it to get all that sort of stuff laid out, and then print it out with much less manipulation than I might have had to do previously. I could change my colour scheme on this, for example, to show red bars to keep it more in keeping with the view of the rest of the report. And this, of course, means that you can make any changes you want to the general layout and arrangement of your reports. You may prefer this style, and in fact I know already a couple of people substantially prefer this style to our traditional one, the sort of snapshot view of a project report. And you can do these for portfolio styles as well as project styles. And of course it means also that we can produce them for you if you want us to, and we can then provide them to you very simply as a package to drop into your custom reports folder. Personal Edition can be bought as a new tool by anybody for £99 plus VAT, and the upgrade from any older Personal Edition or personal version users up to the new version of 3.1 is £25 plus VAT, and you'll be able to find details of how to do that on the website. Okay, thank you very much.